Ms. Branch, if you'd call the roll, please.
Here. 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 Here.
Here. If I could get everyone to rise for a moment of silence in the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to make special recognition for Ms. Rebecca Massey of West Point, who passed away early this morning, as well as the people and country of Ukraine that are going through quite a bit. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gentlemen, we have an amended agenda this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of the amended agenda at our places.
Second. Properly moved and seconded. Ms. Branch, if you'd call.
Aye. Aye. Hey, aye here. What am I saying? Aye.
Aye. This evening, we're going to open up the public comment period. A reminder for everyone that single speakers have 3 minutes total. If you're representing a group, you have 5 minutes per group. Please come forward to the podium. You may remove your mask. And please say your name and your district. Anyone on Zoom, if you could just. Okay. Anyone on Zoom, if you wish to speak, raise your hand and be acknowledged. Now open for public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. And double checking for anyone on Zoom. Okay, with that, close the public comment session. For the consent agenda, I just want to make note, gentlemen, of the recognition and honoring of the Women's History Month in March. We have a resolution here in the package. Just wanted to make special recognition for the men, the women that all around us today. With that, may I have a motion to approve the
Mr.
consent
Chair.
agenda?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Ms. Branch?
Aye. 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 Aye.
Aye. Piece of paper. Oh, first up for presentations this evening, we have the King William Sheriff's Department accreditation presentation. It will be led by Mr. Eric Smith, the Director of the Criminal Justice System Section Supervisor, and Mr. Joe McLaughlin, New Kent Sheriff's Office. Please come forward.
Good evening. Again, my name is Eric Smith. Mr. Chairman, I'll thank you for the promotion. I'm actually just a manager. I'm not the director.
Okay.
JNF. But I'm the manager for our law enforcement standards and policy section. One of our more positive duties that we have to do is we oversee or we liaise with the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission's accreditation program. We actually staff the accreditation center for them. For those of you that don't know, the Vallepsi accreditation program is a voluntary program that law enforcement agencies can enter into, where they open the agency up to inspection and audit by their peers to ensure that they are meeting over 190 specific standards that are set by the commission. And they open themselves up to audit, inspection, review, and critique from expert assessors from other agencies who come in, review their program. And they don't just review policies and paperwork, they actually make sure that the agencies are living up to it. They demand proofs of compliance. Like everybody here, both on the board and in the audience, know this is not a rubber stamp program. You don't just pay your money and get your certificate. You actually have to work for it. The assessors will go through 4 years worth of files to ensure that they have met all of these standards for each and every one of those 4 years. It's my distinct pleasure to have Sheriff McLaughlin here to present the award. Sheriff McLaughlin is one of our commissioners. What do you got?
Mr. Chairman, board members, citizens of King William County, King William Sheriff's Office, and Public Safety family. It's certainly an honor to be here with you tonight. I want to build on what Mr. Smith said. There are 190 standards that each of these agencies has to follow through on. Of those 190 standards, a number of them have multiple bullets. So that means it adds up to about 781 points of compliance that each agency has to do to get their original, and then again every 4 years. This process is a process that if you don't just say you do the job, you have to prove that you do your job and you walk the walk. If I could, I'd like to call Sheriff Walton and his group up, whoever he'd like to bring with him. Yeah. There they are. Accreditation is a tremendous process of about 475 law enforcement agencies in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Currently, right at 25% of those agencies are currently accredited in the state system. We're proud tonight to add King William Sheriff's Office to that process. And I have to say that accreditation is a process for the entire office, not just for the accreditation manager, but certainly it starts at the top. And I think King William is blessed to have a tremendous sheriff and a tremendous sheriff's office. The people that work in this agency are outstanding. I've worked with them. I hate to say it's going on 41 years, but if I may, I'd like to read the proclamation from the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission Certificate of Accreditation. This document certifies that the King William County Sheriff's Office came before the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission on September 9th of 2021 and has met the requirements set forth by said commission and is therefore certified as an accredited agency for a period of 4 years, this being the initial award, signed by the Sheriff C.O. Balderson, Director Shannon Dion of the Department of Criminal Justice Services, and Colonel Steve Pike, the chair of the Celeste Commission. I'd like to present this to Sheriff Walton and his staff. Congratulations, sir. You want an all white shirt on the side? Good deal.
Wait, want to take masks off?
Oh.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay. All right.
If you want to invite others.
Yeah, I'd like to rest my department if they would all come forward. And if while they're doing that, if I could just say a few words, hold that mic. Mr. Chairman, board members, you know, this has been a goal of mine and a dream for a very long time, but none of it would have been possible without my staff. They are hardworking, they're dedicated, and they do a wonderful job for me and to the citizens of King William County. They're really this is not all of them. Come on, come on.
I want to say as a regional law enforcement member and as elected commissioner thank you to each of the King William citizens that give the support to the King William Sheriff's Office for the great job that they do.
And I also would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge my friends and fellow law enforcement agencies from the area. If you guys would please stand. Chiefs and sheriffs from New Kent, West Point, Hanover, Tappahannock, Essex, and did I leave anybody out? Miss anybody? Oh, and King and Queen. Thank you, my friend. We all work together. We have a great relationship with our surrounding agencies, and we continue to try to do better each and every day. But this is like the pinnacle of everything we've worked for so long. So thank you for allowing us to take over the first part of your meeting tonight to do this, but this is very special for all of us. Thank you.
They bring them every year.
Can y'all get over, can y'all center, come in the center real quick?
Yes, down or up?
Yeah, probably so. Y'all be elevated up. Y'all kind of squeeze in, come in, tighten up.
Captain Hamilton has been instrumental in making this happen, and behind every good man is a good woman. Not only my wife, of course, but I know Captain Hamilton's wife has been very supportive in helping us get this done. So thank you, and thank you.
All right, count of three. Tighten up just a little more on the end. All right, go. All right, everybody. Yeah, that's good. One more. Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Everything.
And to the men and women of the King William Sheriff's Department, that's quite an achievement. Congratulations, and thank you for all the law enforcement that attended this evening. Good to see you.
Gotta keep her separate or do you know, be the first thing.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and continue with the next agenda item, the public hearing on the ordinance 01-22, approving proffer amendment 01-2022 Macaulay Park LLC. Ms. Graham. And you're going to go ahead and cover the second one as well?
I'm sorry?
You'll go ahead and cover the second one, 2214. And we'll just have one public comment for both.
I'm sorry.
We'll just have one public comment for both of these resolutions.
I'm going to try to combine them as much as possible into both. So the first one is the proffer amendment, and and these are both the conditional use permit and the proffer amendment are for Macaulay Park LLC. This is for a piece of property that is located on Sheldon Place, which is a road right across from our park. They originally had approval to put in 108 apartment units. And now they want to put in 120 townhomes instead of the apartments. So the proffer amendment, the first one, and I have it, going down a couple. Right there. So the first one, the change is it was no more than 120 townhomes is what's be written. It was no more than 108 dwelling units. So that's the only change in the first one, and it's the date of the preliminary plan, of course. It is now September 30th, 2021. The second one is the exterior walls. It pretty much reads the same, except take out the rental buildings. It would just be, I'm sorry, the multifamily buildings, less rental buildings, since the townhomes will not be rental property. So those are the two proffers that they're requesting to be amended. The next thing is the conditional use permit. And like I said, it had previously been approved for apartments, and they are now requesting to do 120 townhomes instead of 108 apartment units. And this is the conceptual drawing that they submitted, showing the townhouse units. And you can see it's all over on the right side. Okay.
Is it my understanding that these will not be for rent, they'll be for sale?
They're townhomes. They'll be for sale.
For sale. Can they rent them if they have trouble selling them?
They could,
There's no stipulation.
just like a house. If somebody owns a house, they can rent it if they choose to do so. One good thing about it, and this is coming from the Commissioner of Revenue, if they were apartments, the value per unit would be $53,000. With it being a townhouse, you get each lot that the townhouse is on is an estimated value of $25,000 plus an additional $250,000 for each townhome. So tax base is a lot better to be a townhouse versus an apartment. Okay. Next slide. And this just shows the zoning. It is all R1. And you can see around in the yellow that it's pretty high density in that area.
Are we requiring them to put in the connectivity for the high-speed internet in any of these?
No.
I don't think we currently can, but I think there's pending legislation that would make it so that we could in the future.
But it's certainly available in that part there.
Right. I would think that most developers in the area where it's available would want that as a sell.
And most of that area has it available. So
The folks from Breezeline have indicated they are aware and they're prepared, so.
yeah. Okay, and that's just an aerial. Then the future land use does show it being a high density area. Go down one more. There it is. Okay. And that would be in the yellow area. Okay. This is just the entrance. Okay. And then showing the property that it currently is. Okay. All right. And that's just a plan of what it is supposed to look like or projected. Okay. And then the next one, which should be a picture of what they're proposing that the townhomes look like. Okay.
The parcel that's on the other side of the street, how is that zoned?
Believe one is zoned business, and I believe in the back it was M, which is now I. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah. So. Any questions?
Was that
Any
the end of
questions?
Gentlemen, any questions further?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone on, I guess we don't open it up yet.
How many units are connected? I noticed there are breaks in there, but how many were actually connected?
The applicant, Todd Rogers, is here. I may let him answer that one.
Each building will have no more than 5 connected units, is the way that those are designed. So there's no more than 5 units per building. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, I think so, and I'm sure with the code, you gotta have firewalls between all of them, correct?
Yes, sir.
I didn't think anything had changed on it.
No, sir. All that's still the same.
Mr. Rogers, do you also own the other parcels that we were speaking of directly across the street?
Yes, sir. Across Shelton Place, yes, sir. We own those parcels.
Agreement? Okay, thank you.
And I think there was a question about high-speed internet. We've already been in contact. We've Atlantic Broadband, we've worked them to come through Macaulay, and they would be providing high-speed internet for this community also. I think that was another question.
During the construction, I'm just thinking that would be easier at that point.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Most definitely, we would like that during construction. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Grant?
Unless you have any questions.
All right, we'll go ahead and open it up for public hearing. Same rules as before. If you're an individual, you have 3 minutes. If you're speaking for a group, you'll have 5 minutes. Please identify yourself and your district. Public comment period is open. No one on Zoom, Ms. Grant? Ms. Branch? Making it easy tonight. Okay, no one to comment. I'm closing the public hearing.
All right, Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of ordinance 01-22.
Second.
Any further discussion? Ms. Branch?
Aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, I'll move approval of resolution 22-14.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. Ms. Branch?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Next up, old business. Resolution 22-15, clarification of board appointment to the King William County Planning Commission. Mr. Ashcraft.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This matter's been before you a couple of different times. The county attorney has explained how the member of this board would be appointed to the planning commission. And the resolution before you would clarify that.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept resolution 22-15.
Second.
Any discussion? Properly moved and seconded. Ms. Branch?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
They're on the new business, authorizing the advertisement of a public hearing regarding borrowing projects. Mr. Ashcraft. Mr. Ashcraft,
I'm sorry.
this is yours also. 11A.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's one of the, public hearing. Yes, gentlemen, if you recall, you had explained to you a meeting, I believe back from our financial consultants in Davenport, Jimmy Sanderson, and certainly the superintendent of schools, Mr. White or Dr. White, that they will have a borrowing of funds for school capital projects. I'm going to ask Dr. White if he would come forward with his finance director. And we have Jimmy Sanderson on Zoom to clarify a little bit further what was explained to you. The school board has taken action on this matter. I believe you have that document in your packet, and they will be giving you more details. Dr. White and Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Chairman Warren, Board of Supervisors. What we have here and we've spoken to you about is the project that we're trying to start this summer at Hamilton Holmes Middle School. We received an HVAC replacement and improvements grant from the VDOE or from the state that awarded $403,000. That will be our start that we are putting into that project. We also are waiting pending approval from the General Assembly for additional grant funds available for us to fund the project on our own. But we do want to make sure that time is of the essence, and we want to make sure that we give them a letter of intent so that we can move forward the project and start it on a timeline this summer.
So that was in reference to the resolution 2212. And then the other piece is the VPSA grant, or the VPSA funding that we had come to you and worked with Davenport on. Our school board has completed the application and has completed the approvals from our side. And we would like to have a public hearing at the end of March to move forward with that piece of it, to be able to submit to get VPSA funding for the 6 million that you had, that we had discussed in previous meetings, to move forward with our capital project needs.
Any questions?
No questions. Is a simple motion sufficient? All right, then I'll move that we move forward with advertising the public hearing.
Second.
Oh, Dr. White, something that came up, are the schools fire alarm, are they set up for 804 dialing?
Yes, sir.
They're all good?
Yeah, all that fire fast up there last year and the year before.
Okay.
Hard rock is all, so they were like,
Knew you were on it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we do need to complete the vote on that motion.
I'm sorry, Ms. Branch?
Mr. Garber?
Aye.
Mr. McCoskey?
Aye.
Mr. Greenwood?
Aye.
Mr. Hodges?
Aye.
Chairman Moore?
Moving on to new business. We're on new business, redistricting recommendation. After weeks of arduous work, our redistricting committee came up with some recommendations. Mr. Campbell, if you come forward and present. Sure.
Probably hear me a little better, but good evening, gentlemen, and appreciate the opportunity to serve the county in this very important task of redistricting every 10 years that we have to do. First of all, I wanted to thank my members of my committee. I see Jeanette Wagner back there. Any other members of my committee here? Well, all right, Jeanette's here, but I had Strong Robinson, I had Steve Adams, Bill Palmer, and myself. And then the staff, Steve Hudgens and Percy, Betty Brooks, Sherry Graham, and our attorney, Andrew McRoberts. We set out on our task January 27th. We had 3 meetings. And Mr. McRoberts kind of gave us the guidelines at our first meeting. Now, the 2020 census figures show King William has a population of 17,810. Which is about a little over 11% increase from the last census in 2010. Now, let me walk over here. In a perfect world, 17,810 divided by the 5 districts gives you 3,562 that you'd like to see in each district, but that's not going to happen, we all know. But we got to try to get as close as we can to that number. Now, since the last census, we've had District 3, the Daily District, I'm calling it District 4, the Manfred District. They increased the most. So we had to start looking at the boundary lines, existing boundary lines, and see where we could take from D3 and take from D4, because they were too large. So we came over here first. This is Jacks Creek Road. This is Route 600 East River Road. And this area right in here, we felt like we could take away from District 4 and put in District 2, because District 2 needed some more population to get to that 35, 62 feet. Y'all see me all right? So we ran the numbers on that, and then we came over here on this side, because we had to pick up some more, take away from District 4. So we came across down Davies Mill Road 604, and the existing, or the current dividing line was Van Dixon Creek. So we moved that over to the road. And by the way, we can only pick up and take away according to the census block. We can't divide a census block, we just have to use the census block. And the census blocks are trying to be defined or are defined by roads, creeks, something on the ground that's very visible. So we took some more out of District 4 and put in District 5. Then we came over here, District 3, up West River Road, and picked up some population to take away from D3 and put over in D2. So in numbers, right here, 202 population we took out of D4. And over here, we had 203 we took out of D4 and put in D2. So that left D4 with a population of 3,411. Over here, this area here that we took out of D3 and put into D2 had a population of 144. So that narrowed of less than D3 to a population of 3,600. Still a little above 3562, but it's within that 10% variation. If you go 5% above or 5% below. We came up here and we thought we could do something here, but the more we looked at it, there's a heavily populated area in here. There's Parkwood, there's Oak Springs, there's Cherry Fielder subdivision. And we couldn't, and if we took this with an entire census block, if we put this in District 5, that would bring it straight down in Aylet. And people could be living in Aylet and go to the fire station and have to go vote in Mango Hill. We didn't want to do that. And we wanted to be concise and compact, as Mr. McRoberts told us, in our district line. So this is still compact. This is the new line right here. Didn't mess with that. This is the new line. What's that? Okay, touching. This is the new line right here, which is Davies Mill Road. That's a good dividing line. Over here, we had to pick this up, but it's not a road in here. This is where John Melvin Kelly's farm is. That's a swale creek, if you will, that's in the woods. You can see it. I mean, it'd rather be a road, but it's not. But you got to take what you got. And moved the line to here. Then we came down East River Road and just kept on down East River Road to a point where Piping Tree is. You're familiar with Piping Tree. And then came down the creek and moved the D2 line that was here to here. You follow?
Sure.
And then down here, West Point, West Point, we 3414 here in the population of town of West Point, and that met our guidelines, and we didn't want to change anything in West Point. So we left that as it is. And it worked out figure-wise. So, with our new redistricting map, we have population-wise, I'll start in West Point, 3414. 3671 in D2. Keep in mind that 3562 number is the magic number of the baseline. D3, we now have 3600. Still close at 3562. D4 is now 3411. Still within that percentage variation that we got to stay in. And up in Mango Hit, we're at 3714. 3,714, still within that variation. So we thought that was a good fit and we liked it, and that's the way we're presenting to you tonight. That covers my base here. This is the best option that we saw.
I think it's a good equalization. It was me. I think it's a good equalization because District 4 and District 3 are growing. They're growing fast.
Yeah.
So even though I guess I will be the lowest population, but you know, with the growth, I think it's a good, yeah, I think it's a,
That's better, right?
yeah.
Because it's the way voting dilution and whatnot. Like the more people you have in a district, it's anyway.
Well, it's still a fair thing to do because of the growth in District 4 and District 3. You know, it's gonna eventually, it'll equalize long before the next census, I would say.
And it's compact, it's compact. You know, District 4 was way in here, you know, it's a little out there, but now it's pick them in the middle of it and try to draw a circle and keep within that circle, and it's pretty compact. Same with D3. Of course, these areas up here, you got agriculture, a lot of agricultural land, but it's still compact, upper end, lower end, and West Point.
And demographically, the percentages are all within reason.
Yeah, everything worked out according to the guidelines.
Is the 120 townhouses in full?
Yes, it's still in the 4.
You'll get it sometime.
Gene, do you have a blow up of the sections? Like I said, the one, because like I said, I'm still confused about the creek. I know John Melvin's property, but I guess part of his property being one district, part of being the other, but it runs down that creek sort of where, like I said, where the property recesses.
When you go down Westboro Road, don't pass road, Judge Hammond used to live, you know, going that little bottom, that's the creek.
Okay, that's the creek.
That's the little
Okay.
creek right here.
Okay.
And that was the divide line before, but we went up here and picked up right here at Mill Road. We picked that little bit up in there, I think it was.
Yeah, that's what looks so strange. Okay. I didn't know if you had a blow up
Took that creek swale, if you will, and followed it all the way through John Mill.
back to 30.
But we'll be able to get better, you can explode in more detail as we go through this. Okay. And what's the next step? What happens after tonight? What happens after tonight?
This goes to the justice department.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it has to go to a public hearing, has to be adopted by an ordinance of the Board of Supervisors, has to be advertised once a week for 2 weeks. Public hearing, public comment accepted. Then it goes to the Attorney General's office now. You may remember a few years ago, the US Supreme Court struck down parts of the Voting Rights Act. And one of the parts that they struck down was the requirement to send pre-qualification requests to the Justice Department at the federal level. And so about a year ago, the General Assembly adopted something called the Rights of Voters Act here in Virginia. So now we have a state level equivalent Voting Rights Act. And instead of having a submission to the Justice Department, it has a submission to the Attorney General's office. So yes, there's pre-qualification. They just call it a request for certification of no objection. But it's the same thing.
Thank you. Any other questions, gentlemen?
Everybody was laughing, but at least he didn't use the old oak tree.
Yeah, the cedar post.
I said they were laughing because you were using the creek, but I said, at least you didn't use the old oak tree.
Oh, yeah, right, you don't want, you really want these lines to be definable. You don't want somebody to question.
And the tree get blown on.
Yeah, and the cedar post got rocked.
That's way old, probably be there a while.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody that
Thank
was
y'all.
on. on the committee
Thank the
also.
whole committee.
All right, next up, budget overviews. I don't see Ms. Journaling.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It's changed, new hairdo.
usually over here.
There are a lot of people here tonight. Good evening. So what I was gonna do is I included the information from each department already in your board packet, and we wanted to get that to you so you had a chance to kind of review that. So I'll just quickly give you a brief summary of the four different people that will be presenting to you. And I'm thinking maybe as I go ahead and discuss the summary for each one, and then if you have questions for that department, they could come over and I'll just step down. So social services has requested a total of 1.3 million with a local share of $321.932. Overall increase for local share is 95,598. Do you have any questions for Letitia on any of these things?
So it looks like we're making up the difference in the federal share drop.
Yeah. Mhm. And this year, what we're trying to do is base the budget on a calculation, a formula calculation that Letitia has brought to us from her previous life. And we're trying to stick with that calculation too. And then we wanted to use this formula to then move forward and see how well we can actually, that formula is going to actually come, what the actuals will be in the future year. We can tell you this year when the budget was defined, the calculation that we're using right now was not for 22. We did not use that formula. But I can honestly tell you, I'm seeing the actuals come in and we're still going to be well below the 226 that we had budgeted. So this is kind of something that we're trying to figure out, is this calculation that the state passes down to us, is it going to work? The calculation is based on what the state anticipates, worst case scenario for us when they see our budget for 2023. So that's why it might look a little bit higher. But again, to use this formula, that's where it sits. And we've been working finance and county finance and DSS finance are working hand in hand to actually now start actually looking at the real details of month to month. What are we seeing? Are they reimbursing us for what expenditures and things like that? And trying to see if that calculation that they use actually is working on a month to month for actual reimbursements.
I'd like to thank you and Letitia for, working, getting together and trying to iron this out.
Next one.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty. Next, we're going to talk about CSA. They have submitted a total budget of 1.1 million with a local share of 456,938. Overall increase for local share is 32,897. Ms. Porter's here. If you have any questions.
What has changed from last year, if any?
What was your question?
What has changed from last year?
As to what, the number of children?
Anything you can come up with?
Well, basically, do you want to know why the local share has increased?
Sure.
I think, I don't know, have that for sure, but my thinking is the way we calculated the budget last year and how we did it this year. Last year, we took into account the various, we have 3 different local match rates based on whether the child is in congregate care or they are receiving community-based services, or then we have a base match rate. And this year, I just took the base match rate and figured out what the base match rate for the state I didn't try to to compute the three different base match rates. And I think, I don't want to tell you for sure that it will be, our local share will be less than what is projected, but I can't, if we continue our trend of having a lot of community-based services, then our local share will be less. Because the for community-based services, the locality pays 19.26% and the state pays 80.74%. So whereas for our base rate, local base rate is 38.53%. Does that answer your question at all?
I mean, your department's not stressed. We're taking care of what we need to take care of. And
I'm not sure I understand that question either. What do you
I'll
mean?
withdraw. Any other questions, gentlemen?
No, I'm just kind of, yeah, there's an increase in the number of children that are in that, especially that 0.3853 match level.
It's no way to physically nail it down from year over year because you just don't know how many people you will be helping.
Well, right. And I think those of us that have been doing this for a little while would, several years ago, would have rejoiced at a, less than a several $100,000 increase in CSA year over year. So we'll find joy where we have to.
Yes, yes. And it has gone back down from 2 years ago.
Right.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your work. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to VJ CCA. Frazier. She has requested a total budget of $193,774 for the fiscal year, reduction due to the use of fund balance use in fiscal year 2022. And with VJ CCA, as you can see, the revenues are pretty much set. That is based on what the state is going to give us, what our local other partners are providing for their shares. The only thing that really changes year to year is the electronic monitoring fees. We have seen a reduction in that since COVID. So that's why you see that big difference, that gap between, what we had budgeted 60. Yes, last year when we were working on the budget, we didn't realize how much of a drop we were going to see. So that is something we're looking at even in fiscal year 22 to not have to fall short.
Yeah, this is another one that you can't predict year over year what type of the amount of aid that you might have to supply.
That's right. Yes, because when they do these electronic monitoring fees, that increases all of our other expenditures because someone has to go there, monitor, take it off, put it on, and yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into that.
Is that social services or the sheriff's department that would do that?
Actually, Nita Frazier. Just bring her up.
Good evening.
Okay.
I just want to say I'd like to thank the board for all the years that you've helped the children of King William, King and Queen Charles City, New Kent, and Middlesex counties. We cover a lot of areas. And last year's pandemic really put a hurt on us where we were used to recovering through electronic monitoring and intensive supervision fees, $60,000, $70,000 a year. Last year, we dropped down to less than $30,000, and it really did hurt us. I was grateful for the fact that we had built up a fund balance so that we did not have to increase our amount that we went to each of the localities for. And so I'm hoping that we still won't have to do that this year. I have seen in FY22, just since 22 came into effect, that children are back to doing the naughty things. And so our business has picked up a little bit, and I'm hoping that I'll do good this year. And for FY23, 24, and for the future, we won't have to ask the localities to increase at all. Anyone have any questions for me?
No, I think you had asked the question about social services. To my knowledge, I know Letitia can answer this. We're not involved at all with this program, all. I didn't think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. And last up, general registrar.
Yeah, we really keep going, taking a leap there from, children's services to social services to general registrar. General registrar office has requested a total of 282,108. The increase is due to increase in requests for part-time staffing wages. Any questions for Ms. Fox? Mrs. Fox?
There's been a lot of changes from last year, correct?
In regards to what? Changes in what? Staffing? Hours?
The laws, the rules you have to follow.
Absolutely.
Checks.
They change every year,
Oh,
but yes. So the increase that you're looking at as far as my staffing is concerned, I had requested this amount last year, and I did not receive it. So, but we do have a part-time staff member in my office that works a minimum of 3 days a week, and it's definitely necessary. With our office, working with the community as closely as we do with the ever-changing laws and mail and things of that nature, if somebody's out sick, it falls on one person. And that's a lot of work for one person. So this part-time staff member that we have, she fluctuates between a couple of other counties, but she works for us 3 days a week. And so that increase will cover her hourly rate for 3 days a week through the year.
and when you gear into an election cycle, that's all covered with this manpower?
It will be. So there's a day or two, give or take, in a week that she may have to work. We may shift schedules around, things like that. But what I've budgeted will cover the extra days that we have. And the other part-time staff member that I have, that's a more sporadic time. So when election time does come, to kind of help out with crowd control, if we have a lot of voters coming in at one time, she kind of helps with the flow. And that's extremely small scales compared to what we have for our one person that's in there 3 days a week. And then you'll also see in my budget too, cybersecurity infrastructure, additional added for professional services under my tab. That's a requirement by the state of Virginia for me to be under certain cybersecurity infrastructure with different regulations that we have to uphold in order to be compliant with the state. Sorry, I'm going to take this off. I cannot breathe while I talk. To be compliant with the state so that we can maintain our status and be able to use our state system that we use to register voters, set up elections, do all of those fun things. Those regulations were put in place when I first came in 2019. And so we have been maintaining internally. So this money will cover a cybersecurity consulting firm to come in and basically do the work for us. Because the small staff of 2 in our IT department, this is a lot of undertaking for them. It's making sure that we are compliant, and just kind of like the checklist for the sheriff's department, there's a bullet and then there's 6 other bullets underneath that one bullet. And this is writing up policies, procedures, making sure that we have SOPs in place. If the state decides to audit us, this company will have all of the paper trails that we need if we become audited by the state. So this gentleman is and his company are working with other various localities around the Commonwealth. They're working with Caroline County currently, King and Queen County currently, Essex. They are getting ready to jump on with Richmond City, other areas, Petersburg, things like that. So he's got a great business that he is starting to run. He is not a specific preferred vendor of the state because they don't have those, but they are aware of him, they approve of him, and they actually work really closely with him to make sure that we're all compliant. And I don't know about you, but for me, I want to make sure that everything that we do in our office is fully protected. So we want to make sure that we do everything that we have to do from the top to the bottom.
So once you go through this with this company, perhaps next year, our own IT department can take this over?
Possibly. So the state is actually going to start probably at some point going to put these things in place for the county itself to actually start going with. So this could be a good base to get the county started and where we're going to be. But in order to do this, it's a huge undertaking to take on all of the components that we have in the county to get compliant and everything in a short time frame, like what the state's put on for us. So having this consulting firm come in, it is a yearly contract. So it's not something that you would have to do every single year. We could probably come up with something if we decided to change that route. But this, I think, would give us a good base and get us where we need to be so that way we're not being hit hard with tons of questions if we're not compliant with something.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Good to see you. Thank you. Okay, capital improvement plan.
If you want, this will first present the
Okay.
capital improvement.
Dr. White had provided you all packets this morning or this afternoon. And so just wanted to walk through our capital plan, and I'll walk through kind of quickly. And then if you have questions, please feel free to ask those. The top, I provided a legend just because as I say their acronyms to make sure that you are aware of which school that is and what's housed in those schools. I think we have discussed the replacement of the HVAC units in large detail over the past few months. So I will move quickly through that one unless you have any questions regarding that. All right, roofing in fiscal year 2025, we'll need to replace the roof at Cool Spring Primary School. The plan would be to do this at the same time that we would do the HVAC units if possible. And that would be funding through the VPSA financing that we discussed earlier. Classroom furniture and flooring. And we provided some pictures in the back of the packet if you would like to see any of the items that we provided, if you have any questions. Current classroom furniture needs, we were able to use some of our CARES funding to buy some desks to separate some of our students during COVID, as we were one of the few school systems around that actually went to school when COVID first started. But some of the current needs that we have are student desks at the high school. We have over 200 that are broken in one aspect or another that we are mending until we can get some funding there. Preschool cots, we are going to start a preschool program and we'll discuss more about that in our joint meeting, but there's a need for some preschool cots. Chair replacement district-wide, there's many chairs between kids' chairs and teacher chairs that have been broken or need of repair. A few teacher desks throughout the district are at the need of repair. Current flooring needs, the high school front office flooring needs to be replaced, and Cool Spring front office flooring. We had received some approval from you all to buy for about $13,500 in flooring from our school reserve funds last year. Well, with the prices of the supply and demand, we weren't able to secure the entire part. So that's why that's to you right now. And the KWHS ramps, there is a flooring that's on the ramps that will need replacing. And all of that would be funded through school reserve funds. Our bus garage, we're currently, our current buses are taller and longer than our bus garage can handle currently. So it no longer meets the needs of the district. We're currently in need of a roof replacement, which will require more than just shingles because of the deferred maintenance repairs. We had talked briefly with the county about a combined garage that could service more needs of the school district and the county, and we had tabled it at the time. But the funding for that would be financing. And that is not a need in this direct year, but I'm just going through the 5-year plan. Parking lots, Cool Spring and Aquinton are beyond repair at this point. We will need those to be milled and replaced. Hamilton Homes and the high school, we funded Hamilton Homes through the project last, and the high school we funded using school reserve funds along with some offset of student parking fees. And so that funding for those additional projects moving forward are undecided at this point. Playground equipment, Cool Spring primary playground equipment is in need of replacing. We are constantly replacing pieces to keep it in use, which are very costly, but we are seeing more structure needs appearing. Quinton's equipment will need replacing in about 2 years. As recess is an important part of the day of both of those schools, we would like to take a proactive approach on this request. We also wanted to make you aware that many county residents do use our playgrounds at nights and on the weekends.
And that's authorized?
Hmm?
That is authorized? Or they just do it anyway?
They're public county buildings, so the Cool Spring one has a fence around it that may deter some people from using it, but the Quinton one, we know when rec and some other activities happen at the school that kids are on that playground. But there's not many times I don't go by on a weekend that people aren't at one of the 2 playgrounds playing. So the funding for that would be school reserve funds. Replacement of the treatment plant components. We are currently at the end of the treatment plant's useful life. Our yearly inspections are showing the system is aging and need a replacement in the next 2 years. And that is funding, hopefully, that we can get through the VPSA financing. Moving to the high school, band and athletics. Band uniforms, our current uniforms we are using are over 17 years old, and they're starting to really show their age. So we're hoping to fund that with school reserve funds. A gator request, the athletics program is in need of a gator to drag the baseball and softball fields for our games. The current gator being used is over 14 years old and is in need of repairs, and that would be funded through the school reserve funds. Repairs and replacements to the track. Pictures are attached to section D. Our track was installed in 2003 with a 20-year life. We are constantly repairing drainage and track drain inlets to maintain the track. And that is something that we have had on the plan for a couple years, as we knew that was its day was coming. I will like to give a shout out to our maintenance staff. They are doing everything they can, adding concrete, adding dirt to try to keep that track so that it's VHSL able to be used for our competitions. But that is something that we would be funding through financing. Vehicles, school bus repair. We have made great improvements in our school bus fleet over the past 2 years, but we still have 15 buses that are over 15 years old. We will utilize state contracts to purchase these buses. Currently, we're looking at a 7% increase in expenses over prior year, and that would be funded through school reserve funds. Handicap bus replacement. This need will be for fiscal year 2024. We currently are running 2 full buses and have an older bus as a spare. We would be using the state contract to purchase this need in the future, and the funding would be through the school reserve funds. Maintenance vans, our 2 maintenance vans are currently over 10 years old with 153,000, 187,000 miles. We are starting to see more and more issues arise with these 2 vehicles. Our goals would be to utilize a state contract for either a used or a new based on what is available at the time. The funding for that would be school reserve funds. Service vehicles. We are currently in need of adding vans to transport our students out of the county for school, athletics, and club trips that don't require a school bus. An example of this would be golf, wrestling, DECA, FFA. These vehicles are better on gas than using a bus to transport small groups of students. The funding for that would be the school reserve fund. Replacement of IT. Each classroom in the district currently has a smart board or comparable device. We are currently replacing a few each year with district operating funds, but are expecting substantial replacements needs in fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25. With a life expectancy of 6 to 8 years, we're currently are using boards as old as 10 years. So we would fund that through school reserve funds. replace one-to-one computers at KWHS. This will be a need in fiscal year 25. We're currently on a 4-year cycle of replacing Chromebooks. These are funded in part by VPSA funding through a grant. And then the school district has to have the 20% match. So that funding would be the VPSA grant and the school reserve for the 20% match. Replacing them one-to-one at the Hamilton Homes. The only difference in this one is that that will not take place until fiscal year 2027. Replacement of instructional computers. This will be a need for fiscal year 25 and 27. Our instructional computers come out of warranty and will need replacing. We will need to start replacing the non-working that could range up to $75,000 each year for teachers and in classroom settings. And that would be funded through the school reserve fund. Cooling systems for the server room. Each school has a main network room that must remain at cooler temperatures in order to function properly. The $8,000 would be needed to provide the necessary materials for KWHS and Cool Spring Primary Schools needs. Our current maintenance staff would complete the installs, and that would be funded through school reserve funds. We're currently using fans and other items to keep the temperatures down, which aren't as efficient as just putting in a unit in those rooms. And the last one I have tonight before any questions would be security cameras and door security. Each year, the district's able to apply for the security grant. These are items that we continuously ask for during those requests to replace broken or add in areas that are needed to improve the security of our school buildings. So this would be funded through school reserve funds and the security grant. Our security grant has a 25% match. So this current year we were awarded $95,000, and in that $95,000, we are putting in a vestibule at Aquinton. So all 4 of our schools will have a vestibule to protect the front office in case of an emergency. And then we're funding the 25% match through some security items. What questions do you have for us?
I'll go back to high school chairs. Are they getting trashed, or are they just a poor quality in the first place?
So I'm on my 3rd year here, and I can't see in any of our records the last time we could buy furniture or have bought furniture at the high school. Are you aware of any, Dr. White or Tony? Yeah, it's like the middle bar from where they sit in the desk. There's a bar right here that is like breaking off of them. So then they become, I guess, sharp edges on the bar, but also I guess they're not going to be able to stand up to the pushing or, you know, the sliding in and out of the chairs.
But it's not a bathroom situation. Okay, good.
Are there specific requirements through the Virginia High School League for a track? If you can hear me.
As far as the upkeep of the surface, yes. Once it becomes out of compliance based on the wear on it, it's no longer utilized.
So do they come periodically and certify it, or do they look at it, or?
I don't know that. But I know at some point in time, you know, if other teams come and complain about the condition of the track, they will look into it. You could be out of compliance.
So are we at that point?
What I do know about that with the track, we're starting to have cracks inside the lanes itself for the runners.
Yeah, I saw some
Which
of
is
those
creating a
pictures.
problem. We're filling those cracks with the fill they required us to fill it with, but that's where we're getting, and other coaches and other teams that complain about those cracks. It could endanger a runner tripping in the track with their cleats or whatever, but
Is that pretty much a standard track so far as the other?
it's asphalt with coated, like a rubber coating over top
I
of
mean,
it.
the other schools that we are, you know, in open competition with, do they have a similar?
Correct.
They
yes.
do? Okay.
Only difference is, and to get a little further in a drainage issue we're having, a lot of tracks now, they'll have a French drain around that track when they're built. We don't have that. Ours is just solid drain inlets across where all the runoff comes to that. Well, with the heavy rains we're getting, that runoff is cutting into the side of our track and undermining the track itself. And then it's getting into where the storm drains tie into the drain inlets. Over 20 years now, that dirt is pushing through those inlets and that ground is collapsing around those tracks. So we're having to compact dirt. We even had bentonite. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. We put that in and kind of raise it back up a little bit to hold the soil together. They use it when they build ponds and stuff like that. We're doing all we can to kind of keep that track functioning, but we do have some spots in a little bit of jeopardy.
Any injuries?
No, sir.
Not yet, thankfully.
Our athletic director does a good job with that. He does. Look at the track. He walks the track every day. He's keeping us informed of what's going on. We actually filled some cracks last week to his request.
It looks like some of the asphalt pitches that you have also, it's probably a drainage problem there too.
Yeah, to a degree, yes. A lot of runoff there. Probably not enough drain inlets throughout the parking lot itself when it was built. But yes, a lot of runoff there. We have a lot of what they call alligatoring now, I guess, where it's cracking up quite a bit where you can't, if you're going to patch that, you're going to be patching a room this size just to kind of get somewhere you can bond with the existing asphalt there.
I did also ask him to take the pictures last week, and I believe it rained every day.
Yeah, I saw the standing water. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Thanks very much. Okay, moving on to administrative matters. Are we wrapping up?
No,
We
we
got
gotta hear
more
the
to go?
county's needs now. Oh, no, stay in your seats. So included in your packet is the fiscal year 2023 5-year capital improvement plan request. General requests include the following: $230,000 for public safety portable radios for sheriff's office and fire and EMS. In the current fiscal year, we have had this budgeted, but we do not anticipate utilizing the funds for the purchase until next fiscal year. $88,000 for replacement of courthouse security system. The current system is from 2004 and is in need of replacing. $19,500 for emergency battery backup power at the courthouse. $150,000 for VIPSA Convenience Center solution to be funded from the Proffers Fund. $24,668 for key card locks at the administration building. $16,000 for EV car charging system at the courthouse. $2.5 million for broadband. This project would be funded by $2 million from ARPA, $225,000 from EDA capital funds to be rolled forward, and $275,000 from infrastructure capital funds to be rolled forward. $250,000 for farmers market recommended by our comp plan. $25,000 for design of a library site recommended by the comp plan. Fire and EMS service requests are the following: for King William Fire and Rescue, $30,000 for turnout gear, $30,000 for brush truck. Fire and EMS had been approved for purchase of a brush truck in FY 2022 budget, but are requesting that purchase roll over into FY 2023 in anticipation of grant funding. $25,000 for life packs and Lucas devices. $280,000 for SCBA. Fire and EMS will attempt to receive AFG grant to replace out of date, out of service, and out of compliance equipment. Grant will cover 10% of the total cost of $280,000. Parks and Recreation requests are as follows: ballpark complex ball fields. Wow, improvements for $50,000. This would include repairs to scoreboards, roofing for dugouts, press boxes, signage, and bleachers. $25,000 for design of ballpark complex park expansion to include trails and water improvement, and $100,000 for riverfront development plan. Vehicle replacement needs include replacement of high mileage truck and utilities department for $45,000. This would be funded by the water fund. purchase of vehicles for DSS in one vehicle for DSS in order to rotate DSS vehicle to Parks and Recreation to minimize Parks and Recreation staff use of personal vehicle daily use driving to administration, meetings with schools, and to the park complex. The request received from the Sheriff's Office includes one interceptor replacement, which would include upfitting for $52,000, and one vehicle replacement for the animal shelter. Both vehicles that are now in circulation for the animal shelter are over $100,000, and the price for that vehicle would be $49,000, and that would include the upfitting. Information technology requests include $35,000 for new cloud-based phone system, $20,000 for cybersecurity initiatives, $5,000 for security cameras at administration complex. The last type of CIP request is preserve and improve CIP assets. A total of $275,000 for maintaining HVAC and roofing of facilities, $50,000 at McAllister Building to begin replacement of flooring, windows, and painting, $150,000 at Juvenile Building to begin renovation of the building to make the best use of the space, $35,000 for generator install at the animal shelter. And last is $9.1 million for water projects identified in the master utility plan. This project will be funded by a utility bond. So the total capital improvement request for fiscal year 2023 is $13.8 million. To accomplish these goals, we project $200,000 from the 2023 general fund revenues and $1.5 million from the unassigned general fund. Based on the financial policies that have been established, the county continues to maintain an unassigned fund balance in the amount of 20%, approximately 2 to 3 months of general fund expenditures at the end of each year. 20% of fiscal year 22 budget is equal to $5.6 million. The unassigned fund balance represents assets that are available to appropriate for future purposes. And we kind of come up with an estimate from where we're going to fall for 22, and we are expected to have a slight increase there to the fund balance. And that the fund balance is based on unaudited financials. Also, I needed to make that clear that we have not finished the audit. So that is my estimate of where we're going to fall with our unassigned fund balance. Are there any questions?
Gentlemen?
The Riverfront Development Plan
Riverfront development.
from Parks and Rec. Can we talk a bit
Steve,
about
would
that?
you like to address that? Or Mr. Ashcraft?
Well, I'll start out. The comp plan calls for recreation to be expanded in the county, not only for our citizens, but to create opportunities for folks to come spend the day and go back to where they live. We are focusing on development along the river that would be easily upgraded. We've had meetings with the forest folks, the state forest folks, and they have made us aware of the difference between parks and forests. So I think we can upgrade some of the amenities there if we partner with them, but it's not going to create the opportunities that we were hoping for. So there's others that the chairman sent around an email today that we'd like to look at that might give us a greater opportunity to expand to where people can enjoy the river totally. And we're looking at all aspects of it, kayak. Steve, help me here. What other riverfront development or whatever activities can we do?
Personal recreation with kayaking or tubing and swimming, fishing, boating, improve the boat landings, the White's Landing that you sent out to the rest of the board, as well as improve the situation at the landing road access to expand and, well, be useful.
But this is in addition to the grants that we're going through the PDC
This is to be used with
with.
those grants.
I sent it.
Are they matching? Are they grants or are they matching? Do you have any idea? We didn't get much.
That's
detail.
not a project that I'm super familiar with on there, and they've done a lot more of that work out in Gloucester, Matthews, Middlesex.
Well, just for everyone else, we're working through the MPPDC on this program that they anticipate several $1 million, if not more, to take advantage and get King William's water assets into the fray, not just Gloucester, Matthews, but those of us up here in the upper end with our rivers. So those are things that we're trying to attack.
I sent out an email this afternoon, Ed. That White's Landing, you mentioned that it's accessed by a gravel road that crosses a railroad track. Is that state maintained?
Couldn't tell you.
I
don't think
questioned
so. I
Ms.
don't
Graham
think
earlier
so.
today on that. It is state maintained, but we do not know exactly where the end of state maintenance is. Not sure if it goes past the railroad track or not.
I'd like to take a look at that. I know you said it was a high bluff. Is it a physical landing that you could put a boat in there?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's only a small parking area. So is that owned by Game and Inland Fisheries?
They manage it.
They manage it.
It's
Okay.
King William County property though.
Oh, it is. Okay. How big of an area is it?
It's pretty small.
Small.
It's basically a
It's
gravel
maybe,
turnaround.
it's maybe as big as this room.
Really? Yeah. That could be a problem.
Landing Road's got more property to it, but it's also got other issues that we.
But these are all things that.
Right. So I
we-
was just, I've seen a couple of those emails, but I hadn't really done a deep dive on them. And so there are opportunities that we want to leverage. So.
And certainly Sandy Point is a huge opportunity. And if you know of any others, please let me know. We'll get them injected. Anyone else? And before you sit down, is that all?
That is it. Sorry.
Okay. No, thank you. Now, Mr. Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The members of the board have my report for this evening, and this is the amended report from what I had sent you last week. As you know, I upgrade it every meeting, and what is new is in the yellow. Let me start out. We were hopeful that we could lift the mask restriction that is forcing you to wear them right now and others in staff. But we're getting closer. If you look at the bottom of the report, it explains that the Department of Labor and Industry and Health Board, which issues the administrative codes requiring masks to be worn in the workplace in October of 21. They met last week to discuss repealing the standard, and they voted to repeal it. However, there is a 30-day public notice and comment period before they can meet again and make a final ruling to repeal it. So that 30 days will end on March 17th. So until that happens and the final result, we will continue to do what we are doing now as we greet the public. Certainly when there's big meetings in confined areas, we do take our masks off in our individual offices and look at the circumstances that might be before us to make that decision. And I would also add one other thing about the COVID-19 is that we remain the highest transmission county in the northern neck, in the middle peninsula, the Three Rivers District Health District. We have two counties, I believe, that are low. The rest are medium. And we continue to be the highest, even though our numbers have gone down significantly. You know, we're averaging about 5 cases a day now as opposed to, to what it was 14 or something before a 7-day average. So those are the circumstances around COVID-19, and we're continuing to push where we can for people to get boosters if they've already received their regular shots, and if they haven't received those, then we certainly want to provide that opportunity to them through the health department. So I want to let you know, I've let you know in a couple other separate emails that opening day for the King William Little League is March 26th. And you will be receiving an invitation, if you haven't already, to throw out the first balls on that particular day. We don't know the time yet. We do know it'll be out at the rec ballpark. And the Little League folks want to show their appreciation to the board for what they've provided over the years. We have a good partnership with them. And we're in the process right now of sprucing up the facility to get ready for the opening day. There's some things that had to be done, dirt on fields, some electrical matters, getting scoreboards and everything in place. So we're, and you just heard a recommendation to upgrade the fields further through the capital plan. So anyway, that's March 26th, and we'll let you know more, and you'll get the invitation officially from Little League. We have 2 refunds, or I guess possibly rebate possibilities in the county right now that will come soon. Dominion Energy has sent out a notice that they're going to be offering refunds to its customers. Don't know at this point how significant that might be, but that's anybody who is on Dominion should be receiving some rebate, some refund. So the Hampton Roads Sanitary District also sent out a notice last week and announced that it will be giving refunds back to its customers who have unpaid balances. And these are customers who fit a specific profile, and everyone will be notified of that possibility through their bill message. And the estimated total of that is $3,134.22 that'll be given out by the sanitary district. So that will not be countywide. That would be specific for customers who may have unpaid balances, and if they can prove through COVID-19 and other circumstances, then they will get the refund. It's mentioned about the commission having a list of grant opportunities, and county staff is diving into those along with the ones the Center Warner has sent out. And then other block grant opportunities that the state provides along with DCR. But assistance is available to those who it's their time to pump out their septic tanks. And we're providing that information more aggressively than maybe we have before. The program is coordinated through the PDC, and there are websites and phone numbers and other information that they can gather if it's their time to pump. And again, there is an income-based profile in which they go by, but it is an opportunity for further funding to help out people who may need it. So, Mr. Chairman, that completes my report. You have a number of reports in your packet from departments and agencies. If you have any questions, we'll attempt to answer them. If so, we can don't have the answer, we'll certainly get back to you.
So the details are certainly appreciated. Get the big picture. I know personally I appreciate it. Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Comments, Mr. Miskowski, I think you're up.
Don't you want me to go out the end? How's that? Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight. That is a very big congratulations to the Sheriff's Department on achieving accreditation. We know that's a big deal, and that's been something you've been working on. So we're very proud of you and the work that you've done. So thank you. Not a whole lot to add tonight, other than I think everybody's doing good work on the budget so far that I've seen. I'm eager to see the working document when we get it, and continue to be all at once horrified and inspired by what's going on in other parts of the world. We don't know where this is going to lead, but I think we can all be somewhat inspired by the Ukrainian leadership and Ukrainian people's response to this crisis, and continue to want to do everything we can to bring a peace to that part of the world.
Mr. Greenwood.
Good to see all the people show up today. We had pretty much a full house we haven't seen in a long time. Thanks everybody for coming, and congratulations to the Sheriff's Department. Very good achievement. And ditto everything else everybody else said. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Garber.
Yeah, I'd like to also give a shout out to the Sheriff's Department. And like Travis said, what's going on in the Ukraine is a travesty. Hopefully it doesn't spill over into the European NATO nations. At one time, I guess in the history of the world, we are still a very young country. And we had help in the Revolutionary War from France. We could be sitting here today and things could be very different. And my heart goes out to them. And when you get home tonight, pray for them. That's all.
Mr. Hodges.
I thought you was kidding. Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and I'm very proud of the sheriff's office, even being a part of it. But I know it's a lot of work there. The captain did a very excellent job and worked very hard to get that. But it also took the rest of that sheriff's office to make it happen. Yeah, I can tell you, I went down that road trying to do it at West Point and never completed it because there was some resistance to it. And he was able to get the staff to work with him. And if you don't have that, you'll never get it done. But anyway, the only other thing in Mr. Ashcroft is looking at it. I had a complaint this week where the e-check, we're charging for that where we never charged before. And it appears that there's some contractual thing with Edmonds and they're collecting that money. And that's totally wrong in my opinion, but that's only my opinion in the first. But I think it should be done away with. And I wish that had been brought to the board because I know I wouldn't have voted for that to been approved for them to collect. I don't understand that. The only people I know of that really collect any kind of fees like that is usually your red light equipment and monitoring. I've never heard of a regular software.
Essex County has Edmonds also, and the people there have the same complaint.
Yeah,
it's tied into that contract some kind of way, from what I understand.
And it shouldn't have been.
No,
I mean we bought the software. And then with all the issues we appear to they're working out, but I mean that we've dealt with, I just don't understand. It may not be a whole lot of money, but it is to those folks that sat down and getting ready to, and I'll be honest, I don't have a problem with them if they use a credit card to have to pay that penalty, because that's a known everywhere. But the e-check was supposed to be free, and it always has been in the past. But I appreciate everybody coming out and have a good week. And we'll be back when? Tuesday?
Soon enough.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
I knew it was somewhere soon.
And Sheriff, Captain, congratulations again. A heck of an achievement. Going on to Ukraine, I had the opportunity to actually travel to, I used to call it Kiev. I will never call it Kiev again. It's Kyiv. And just the people, the feeling that you got while you were there and looking at a beautiful city. I'm glued to the TV when I'm home. So hearts and prayers go out to those people to get through this. And gentlemen, if I could get a motion to convene closed meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to convene a closed meeting in accordance with section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia to consider a personnel matter involving the performance of a specific public employee, and in accordance with section 2.2-3711A5 of the Code of Virginia to discuss a prospective business or industry or expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made, and in accordance with section 2.2-3711A29 of the Code of Virginia to discuss the terms or scope of a public contract because discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the board.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? Ms. Branch?
Aye.
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 Aye. And now in closed session, we'll be call the meeting back to order.
Motion to reconvene in open session, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Ms. Branch?
Aye.
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 Motion to approve SR1, am I right?
Second.
Properly motion seconded. Ms. Branch?
Aye.
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 Aye. And gentlemen, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion. Second.
Ms. Branch?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, everyone. All right.